Hello viewers. After talking about the cultural reference of Coach Lasso running man dance in the last video, let's dive right into another famous scene of Ted Lasso when Ted giving it to Jamie Tart about practice.
Yeah, here we are, talking about you missing practice. We talking about practice.
Now, if you are not a basketball fan, maybe you don't have a clue that the speech Ted gave in this scene was referencing the infamous Allen Iverson practice rant at a Philadelphia 76ers press conference at 2002.
Anybody tell you that I miss practice, if a coach say I miss practice and y'all hear it, then that's that. I mean, I might have missed one practice this year, but if somebody say he doesn't come to practice, it can be one practice. Out of all the practices this year, that's enough. That's enough to get a whole lot started. I mean, that's enough. You know what I mean?
So you and Coach Brown then settled the issue that he brought up on Saturday about practicing?
If I can't practice, I can't practice, man. I'm hurt, I'm hurt. I mean, simple as that. It ain't about that. I mean, it's not about that at all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but it's easy to talk about. It's easy to sum it up when you just talk about practice. We sitting here, I supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice.
Well, Coach,
I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice. I know I'm supposed to be there. I know I'm supposed to lead by example. I know that. And I'm not shoving it aside, you know, like it don't mean anything. I know it's important. I do. I honestly do. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice? We talking about practice, man. We talking about practice. We talking about practice. We ain't talking about the game. We talking about practice, man. When you come in the arena and you see me play, don't you?
absolutely.
You see me give everything I got, right?
Absolutely.
But we talking about practice right now.
But it's an issue that your coach
We talking about
continued to raise.
Man, look, I hear you. It's funny to me too. I mean, it's strange to me too. But we talking about practice, man. We're not even talking about the game, the actual game, when it matters. We talking about practice.
Jason Sudeikis acknowledged and explained the reference himself in a 2021 interview in which he detailed the reasons behind this subtle yet profound inclusion and tribute to Allen Iverson.
I wanted to use AI's, Allen Iverson's practice speech. I had always seen it in the press conference as Allen, did it in real life, and just as like a comedic flip, like just Ted talking about the virtues of practice, but do it word for word, which we more or less did. It's not illusions. I mean, he should actually contact the Writers Guild and make a lament, or I'll happily just buy him dinner. But he and I are the same age, and when I was a senior in high school, I played basketball, and he was the best basketball player in the country. And then he wasn't able to play his senior year because of a scuffle he had in Virginia Beach. I think it was where he was from before heading to Georgetown. So he's always been a guy that I was on my radar long before the speech. Like in episode 105 is when Jamie really, calls Ted out, and Ted's about to yell at him, but then his son comes in. And that's a thing that we talk about on the show a lot, about how we can be each other's angels and save each other from certain moments. And that you'll see it throughout, certainly the first season and second season, where people, someone swoops in at just the right moment before someone heads to a dark way. So Ted's about to have this squabble with Jamie in 105. So emotionally it had been teed up. And then I remember a couple days before, it may have been the night before, I was like, oh shit. Like it just hit me, where I was like, oh, the Iverson speech, and it's going to be in protest, not comedy. And that's a lesson that I feel I learned personally from like Monty Python films, like Life of Brian or Holy Grail. Like I am not I don't know King Arthur. I don't know those stories, and I don't have I was raised Catholic, but I don't have a deep, understanding like those fellows going to Oxford and Cambridge. I went to a, Fort Scott Community College. And so there are levels to those movies that if you know those references, you know, Religion or Knights of the Round Table, and they score on that level. You know, we do those with soccer jokes all the time. But then the other times they're just funny. It's just good wordplay. It's just clever, great acting, great, you know, like, great ensemble. So here it was like the reference was by no means ever played to me as funny. I was like, maybe the most lauding, you know, the moment or the idea would be clever. Like maybe because someone would say, oh, it's clever, but it was repurposing what I feel was a protest song by Allen Iverson in that moment, turned into an opera and charged it with more emotion. And then the other thing that's going on there, and I think part of the reason it popped in my head as being a perfect spot for it is one, the bed that was laid emotionally for Ted and Jamie in 105 that was then cut short by his son's appearance in the locker room, and then loving Jamie, you know, and happy to see him and having him sign his whole jersey, and Ted being like, was the whole episode, you know, there's the theme of semantic satiation, of using a word over and over and it losing its meaning. And Ted says practice more than he says plan or ace. And yet every time it's with this burning hot intensity and intention. And it's because it was boiling under there. And yes, he's maybe some displacement there because of, you know, what happened with him and his wife. But it was like, oh, this is exactly where it's supposed to be. This is why it hadn't been in the show. This is why we hadn't written the scene prior. We didn't write the comedy press conference yet. Like it just, sometimes when you stay open to these things, if you don't try to hold on to anything too tightly, you don't know, you can't hold water in a closed fist. You got to cup your hand like that. And so we're just cupping these moments gently, and then it just arrived as that thing. And so it really was about, you know, semantic satiation and having to put Jamie in his place. You know, we talked about like, what is the intention here? What is the intention? Like, is it a comedy moment? And for me, what I thought was neat is the same way that the Allen speech has been misrepresented in popular culture. He was angry about being asked about practice, and he says it right then and there, but he's also dealing with the death of a very close friend. And it's put him in a box in people's mind, and yet it's a singular moment from a very, very, you know, any of us are complex enough. And it's just been like, oh, he wasn't a practice player. It's like, no. He's one of the hardest competing people in sports. To be 6'1" and dominate like as he did in the NBA at that time in the NBA is astounding. And he was like, what are you asking me about this? I'm dealing with real pain and you're asking me about practice.
AI himself even shared this devastating backstory about the tragic death of his best friend in interviews in later years.
And I'm happy with the way I've done it because it taught me a lot. You know, just like you talk about the practice situation, you'll see it on the documentary what it was really about. And I'm not gonna explain the whole situation, but it wasn't just about that I didn't like practice or didn't care about practice or anything like that. If I could go back and do it all over again, I wouldn't have never did the interview. But as far as how I expressed practice over and over again, I wouldn't take that back because obviously, if that soundbite is always going to be, because it's great for the media, it's great for the fans, you know, they love it. But they had no idea that my best friend had just got killed. They had no idea that the press conference wasn't about practice. The press conference was about me not being traded from Philadelphia. That's what I thought I was sitting down at the podium to talk about. But everybody.
And so the fact that people watch that scene and some people laugh at it, some people get the reference, some people don't. Like, it feels like this meta sort of moment that, again, we're only writing the show from the intention by which the story we're trying to tell. The fact that people have clued in on it so much has been astounding. I mean, it's the closest I think I'll ever feel to, like, personally for me, as like a songwriter, the power to like write your emotions out after a breakup or something good happening, or coming up with a hook and then turning a microphone to Madison Square Garden and have them sing it back to you. Lordy, no wonder, you know, the rock star mentality is, you know, can go, you know, towards the dark side or vice versa. Because it's really something, because you feel really, really seen, heard, and and validated. One of the thing that like kind of went viral, and Bill's kindly spoken about this, but Bill wasn't sure Bill Lawrence wasn't sure what to make of it, because he was kind of like, do you want like one of the people to go, is that the Allen Iverson speech? And I was like, no, like if they get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't, because it's in that Monty Python way, it's earned. Like you want Ted. I wanted Ted to yell at this fucking kid. Like he needed some hard love, after that advice that Keeley gives him in 102, like, he responds to praise, but we don't know, the audience doesn't know where Jamie came from. They find out because of this moment. And sometimes, you follow your gut. Sometimes your gut leads you, and that's what it's doing to Ted. And it works out. And then you have, the twist.
Wow, now we understand and appreciate how much thoughts Jason and his co-writers had given into one single freaking scene, if not the whole show. So we can remind ourselves again why we love this show so much. Let us end the video in a lighter mood. Enjoy a few comical references made by other celebrities and even the great, one and only AI himself. Take care, and until next time.
Last question in the back right.
You ready to go to practice before we get better, bro? You've been talking all day. Let's go.
Practice? Not the game. You talking about practice? All right, I got to get to practice.
Thank you. This concludes the session for this afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. When I heard that I would be the first speaker in tonight, I think maybe somebody made a mistake. Don't laugh, because I think this spot belongs to great Allen Iverson. You know why? Because I need more practice than him.
Sum it up. It was great. I had a great time.
We've heard parking may be an issue.
Parking? The best franchise in all of baseball. And we're in here talking about parking. What are we talking about? I know we're not talking about parking.
Is it going to be a hassle?
We talking about cashbacking. Not a game. Not a game.
We talking about cashback.
We talking about cashbacking.
We're not talking about practice?
No. We talking about cashbacking.
We talking about cashback.
We talking about cashback.
Not a game.
We've been talking about practice for too long.
Word.
No practice. We talking about cashbacking.
We talking about cashback.
I mean...